Welcome to Rabcast. I'm Daniel Weiner. As the presidential campaign formally begins with this week's Iowa caucus, the key query asked by all, from pundits to polls to prognosticators, is not merely who will get the most votes as the nominee and the eventual president, but why? What criteria do most Americans use in choosing the next leader of the free world? Is it naked self-interest? Is it the moral values and principles that drive our lives more broadly? Or is it some combination of both? From where do these values and principles come? Evangelical Christians commonly take their electoral orders from a literal reading of the Bible or its preferred interpretation from their favorite preacher. And so, where do we Jews derive the standards by which we choose our next president? The leader of this nation who will set the tone for our domestic needs and foreign policy challenges for the next half a generation. Some of us base the decision solely on where the candidates fall on the question of Israel. Others dismiss the ancient texts in favor of a loosely defined set of liberal or humanistic values, values which, if probed, are probably more rooted in Scripture than realized or conceded. This week's Torah portion, Mishpatim, contains some of the most foundational and impactful concepts in our tradition. Aspirational notions that both articulated God's vision for the world while providing a practical blueprint for the emerging Israelite society. This casuistic compendium encompasses civil and ritual regulations, a reflection of a pre-modern world in which there were no boundaries between synagogue and state. Everything we learned, believed, and acted upon was a response to our covenant with God. Thus, this portion contains what is often called the Covenant Code, a legal prescription for fulfillment of divine will. Of its many dictates, perhaps the most important describes our regard for the stranger. You shall not wrong or oppress the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Compassion for the stranger is mentioned dozens of times in Torah, often in conjunction with concern for the welfare of the widow, the orphan, and the poor. Together, these four types of our fellow citizens comprise the most vulnerable, least protected, and least advocated for within a society. We are commanded, compelled, and inspired to care for those most in need as both a way of extending God's empathetic model into the world, and because of all peoples, we Jews know what it is to be the other, unwanted, unheeded, and dehumanized. In our current climate, Muslims, refugees, the homeless, and the working poor are poignant examples of those we Jews should most strive to support. It is a perfect melding of the striving for ideals and an appreciation of our self-interested awareness. And as we begin this process to choose our next leader, the most powerful person on the planet, let us infuse our analysis, our advocacy, and our vote with a genuine, clear-eyed, and honest understanding of the Torah's call to care for the least amongst us. Especially as our history's most prosperous, secure, and powerful Jewish community, anything less is a failure of will, vision, and heart. Shabbat Shalom.